Hey, Dr. Spencer. Class. So when I looked at the material, looking at the the offenders in this segment, when we're really looking at various marginalized populations, what I looked at first was after looking at the the demographics of the people who, for if it was for behavior attitudes that, they were marginalized. So the LGBTQ I community sometimes is looked at as a marginalized. Gays and lesbians, have historically been people who were kind of at risk in certain environments. Obviously, ethnic and racial minorities, the black youth who, as Dr. Spencer mentioned, and in both the adult and juvenile systems are grossly overrepresented. Other minorities, when we look at the whole, we sometimes miss, I think, some of the smaller minorities, like Native Americans, actually have a pretty high incarceration rate as well. But the biggest one that obviously sticks out to most is African American youth in this case being overrepresented. Um, and then we have the people with mental or emotional illnesses who are in the system. So, with regards to these special populations, the one that I would focus on is those with mental and emotional illnesses. And kind of going back to um, material from looking at the adult criminal justice system and the adult correction system, BOP declares that almost 50% of the people in the federal pen, adults, have mental or emotional disabilities. And they didn't just appear as adult offenders with those problems. They probably started as juveniles. And those are the things that generally, by and large, without help from external factors, those aren't going to fix themselves. Those are going to get worse. Those are going to create more issues um, with their criminality. So I think that those specifically, because of the amount that we know that are out there in the juvenile justice system with mental or emotional issues, I think the focus should be on kind of going back to what the Ann Milgram video. We need to probably, look at how we can statistically figure out how to fit this into some sort of intake survey in order to direct resources to those people who need it. So I would think it's kind of, we want to look at that risk assessment that we talked about a couple weeks ago, and we need to look at the risk and needs part, and then quantify some areas where we can articulate some needs, and then create a plan strategically for how to deal with that. But a lot like the studies a couple of weeks ago showed, um, only so many of these um, static categories can be used in county to county, from state to state, while some of the dynamic ones are going to be very different for different communities and different areas. But um, the reasons that I would not try to necessarily, um, the reasons that, number one, I don't think I would push on trying to fix the issue in regards to race with the black population, is because I do think, actually, as we are more progressive and we decriminalize or outright legalize marijuana, I think we are going to see. It might take a while for this to really come to fruition and for us to see the end result, but I think our decriminalization or legalization of marijuana is going to lessen the overrepresentation in general of blacks in both our juvenile and our adult justice systems. However, that's not a magic wand. It's not going to happen tomorrow, even though we legalize something today. It takes a while. We're going to affect the kids who we don't bust today. That'll be a change that we see maybe in 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years. So I think that some of the racial issues, some of the ethnic issues will be affected by that. Therefore, it's kind of a moving target in a little bit of a sense. And I think that the mental illness, though, is something that we don't have anything really on the books legislatively that's going to impact that in the near term. So that's what I would focus on and look at incorporating that more in our risk and needs assessment to try to figure out where to try to insert these services. And obviously, we need to pay for them somehow. So it'll be through initially possibly through grants or emergency funding, but eventually the legislatures of states and of the federal government will have to be addressed to increase the amount of money that they spend on projects like these. And we'll have to, possibly create more groups to actually oversee how this money is spent as well. Thank you.